you need is a trip to the supermarket to tell you inflation is a problem that is not going away. Margaret Brennan, host of Face the Nation, joins us live tonight. Margaret, thank you. Always great to see you today. The chair of the Federal Reserve said that high inflation will likely last into next year. That's something that not a lot of people want to hear.
No, and it's going to hit your pocketbook because the price of living, we already know, has gone higher. The inflation rate the Fed looks at year over year, we're up 3.5%. You and I both know when you pay for your gas, when you pay for your food, it's more than that. So this is a real constraint as we come out of the recovery from this pandemic. This could really cause some problems. And we're going to talk to one of the top economists in the world, Geeta Gopinath, the chief economist at the International Monetary Fund, about what this means, what's causing it as well. Because if you look globally, COVID is still a big problem in many developing parts of the world, places that manufacture goods we buy here in the U.S. It's part of the supply chain disruption you've been hearing so much about. This is so complicated. We want to pull it apart and unwind it for you and tell you what your bottom line is. It also has political ramifications, of course, for President Biden, who's trying to get some big spending bills through. We want to talk about whether those get smaller and if that truly impacts what the U.S. economy will be looking at in the year ahead.
Another big headline this week coming out of Capitol Hill, the House voted to hold Steve Bannon in contempt of Congress. What do they ultimately learn from this?
Well, what Congress did is refer to the Department of Justice the fact that Steve Bannon is refusing to talk to them and ignoring subpoenas, and he can be prosecuted, punished for that, fined up to $100,000. Congress is basically saying you can't ignore us in our questions to you about exactly what your role was in the planning of the siege of the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Were you simply cheering on from the sidelines, or were you part of the planning? Was this something more than a riot gone wrong, and were there connections going to President Trump? That's what this select committee is asking questions about. We will have their chair, Benny Thompson, on the program Sunday. We want to ask him what they've learned so far and why it is important to keep pressing these questions, because, as you know, many Republicans want to just move on and say it happened. Those who carried it out are being prosecuted. This committee, however, is looking at whether there was help from the outside and planning, perhaps by people who aren't being prosecuted. And one of the few people close to President Trump who's refusing to answer questions is Steve Bannon. The former president's chief of staff, for example, is answering questions.
Very interesting. And we look forward to the conversation. Margaret, thank you. You can see Face the Nation Sunday at 10:30 a.m. on WBZ TV. Paula?
Well, Margaret.